So when you start your first cut, you might want to use a little bit of jeweler's wax or beeswax, or that way it's salt wax, and coat your teeth. Now what that does is it lets it start without giving you too much sticking. Otherwise you'll start and the teeth will just grab and could break a blade. But once you're going, it doesn't much matter because it wears off of there quite fast from both friction and just rubbing on the sides of your plate. So as you can see, I started the cut. Now I have a hole drilled here in the plate, as you can see, and it works pretty nice because you can keep your metal flat and let the saw do the work without you're sawing into the wood bench pin. Now backing back out is sometimes a problem. The metal likes to pinch. Now this time I kind of got away with it. I'm not actually forcing the blade, I'm just kind of letting the pressure do its own thing. Okay, I'm just going to angle this. And that's all I need. Now, you can see that a little strip, 1 inch by 6 or whatever that is plenty to do many little leaves and flowers and little hearts. And we'll probably do a heart next and do a pendant. And we're getting into some things that take a little bit of practice to learn right off the bat. But they are the most important items in learning how to do jewelry designing and making it for a profit for yourself. Once you've learned these steps, you'll find that they're used throughout the industry of jewelry making. That'll be the gravers next. So let me get this cleaned up a little bit here for you, and we'll see what goes on next. Okay, now that we've got our little little feather sawed out, the next thing we're going to do is trim it out with some files. Now, I make these little handles for needle files. And you can see this little handle right here. And these are really nice. They have a Allen set screw in them. I sell these in sets of 1 or sets in 3. So you can buy 1, 2, or a set of 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever you want. You generally need 3. And the reason for that is that you need a flat file here. You need a round file. And you'll need a Barrett file. And a half round file once in a while is kind of nice too. There's only about 3 files you really use a lot of. And needle files will work just fine for you. You're talking about $6 for the set of files of 10 or 11 files. We carry them in stock, and then you can buy the handles. A set of 3 of them is what I recommend. But if you just want to start with 1 to save a little bit of money while you decide you like the jewelry business, that's fine too. I don't generally use needle file. I use these bigger files. They cut faster. Here's a half round file, which is another one that I use. Here is a Barrett file, which I use, and it's got angles on it. And these are about the 3 files I normally use. So you can see I have 3 handles, 3 files. There's many different files you can buy, but as a rule, I'm just telling you 3 is nice. Now, the little needle files are wonderful little files, and they work just fine for you. This is a half round, But then you have to, if you only have one handle, you have to undo the screw every time you turn around and insert another file. But I do not like trying to hold on to these itty bitty little handles on this. So we built a file handle that works really well. It's nice and thick, and it holds the file, and you got something that your hands can work with and control the direction and the stroke of the file. So that's why we buy the little handles. You can buy, whoops, let me think. You can buy files even at the regular store, and they got these little bitty handles on them. excuse me there. And but these are just too small. You don't have control over them. I like something you can grab a hold of. So enough said on that. So the next thing we want to do is use our little files, our needle files, and we want to come in here and just reshape the outside edge of your feather so that it looks nice. I want around the edge. And I'm just following the outline of the drawing that I made with paper. Alright, so I've got the rough edges off of that. Now I'm going to take a little, you can use a X-Acto knife. You can get them at a hobby store. And you just come in here underneath the piece of paper and you try to work your feather back off. Careful that you don't cut yourself. This one's been taken off about a dozen times. So alright, see, I've removed the little drawing, so I have an image of what I'm going to try and do next, and you'll see that our feather doesn't look like a feather anymore when you take off the design. Now, this is why I'm telling you the next steps are a little frustrating. They take a little practice, and once you kind of get the hang of it, you'll be pleased with me for the rest of your life as long as you're making jewelry. You have to learn to do the texturing with gravers, not with rotary tools. You don't have near the control of what you're trying to do when you're trying to do a texture. So with that is the next item we're going to use is a graver. Now these are metal gravers, and there's a reason why I like the metal gravers. And to start with, they have a flat on the bottom so they don't roll off the table. You see that? And they fit the hand like this. I'm sorry. Take the bottom of the graver and you put it in your hand until it feels comfortable. And I usually use this finger right here. Now you can see I have plenty of control with this graver. So you need a handle and a graver. Now there's 2 screws in the bottom of these, and that's because there's 1.5 inches of graver inside of here. Engraver is the person doing the work. Graver is the piece here. So these are gravers, and this graver is adjustable. Not everybody's hands are the same, so if you have big, large hands, you may want to come clear out here with your graver, and you can easily adjust this through these 2 grooves, 2 Allen screws that are set there. Now, that being said, the average, you want this finger right over to the top of your blade, so that when you lay it in your hand and you turn it back, this is the distance you're going to want your graver set. And for, like I said, everybody's hands are a little bit different, but if you have a very small hand, you're going to want to retract the graver blade as far up on the handle as you can, and it's adjustable as you start wearing it out by filing it and resharpening it. So the other way to do this is a graver, and this is just a round handle on this, doesn't have the flat on it, so you can see it can roll right off. Yeah, so let me explain a little bit about that, because this is where we're getting at. You can see how that rolls around. I don't like those so very well. If you like this one, it can roll all it wants, but gets to the flat, it stops. So if you want to buy and save maybe $15 or $20 total, you can buy a wood handle like this. With a wood handle, you'll have to drill a hole about 1/8 of an inch, and you want to drill it down about 3/4 of the way. So you can use a hand drill to do that. You take about 1/8 of an inch drill bit and you drill a hole down through this. All right. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to take your graver, and you're going to need a pretty healthy torch, because you're going to turn the tang of this graver right here cherry red. And the reason for that is because you're going to force this handle down through onto this blade. So you'll want to mount this in a good sized vise, clamp it down. You want to heat this cherry red right here, just this part of the tang, cherry red. That's how I do it anyway. Now this has got a flat on it, so I want the flat to got away from me. I want the flat to match the flat on the bottom of the graver. So it's going to look just like that. So this is just a procedure if you don't want to buy the metal gravers. Alright, then this is cherry red. This is mounted in a vise. You're going to take this and you're going to tap it down with a hammer until it goes all the way down onto your wood handle, and that will melt into there really smoky. You'll have smoke flying everywhere. Yeah, but that's how it's done. And then you just tap it on and let her cool down. Now you got a graver, but now look at your graver. You see this? I'd have to be clear out here to use it. So that's not going to work very well, is it? See? So now you see where my hand is, and that's about where I'm going to have to cut this graver off. So you'll put this back in the vise and clamp it down, and then you take your hammer and you just smack it right there where you want it. It'll be right against your vise, and you just snap that, and it'll snap right off. So now you got a broken graver just like this one is. And now you can put this, and you notice now it fits my hand. So now I'm going to have to grind with a grinding wheel to make this the way I want it to look. Grind this down and put a face angle of about 50 degrees on it. And then you got to sharpen it with a bench stone, and you got to polish it up with a mirror finish. And that takes a number of steps and quite lengthy amount of a time to do it. So back to these. You can buy a set of 2 gravers for about $55 or $60. You can look on our website. We sell these, and you can buy them with a number of different blades. You can buy just one graver, and once again you can undo the set screws and change blades, which would be the least expensive way to go to start. Or you can buy a set of 2, and you'll get 2 different styles of blades. Now this is a flat blade, and let's see if we can get into this. Right here, see, that's a flat cutting blade. It's pre-sharpened. Oops. Let's bring that out just a little bit. These are pre-sharpened blades. You can see the front. This is the face angle here. And this is about a 3mm flat, and it's a nice size blade to work with. Graver blade, or a graver. It's got about a 15-degree heel put on it, and that heel is designed so that you're not trying to cut straight down like this. You can actually lift it up to work with it. That's why a heel's put on your graver. We can get into a lot of this later on when we start doing other different cuts. Okay, this is a V-graver. It is a 90-degree graver. They make numerous styles and angles. This is 90. They make a 96, a 110, a 120. Various shapes of faces. I use about a 45 to 50-degree angle, and this does a single line. So you can make multiple different designs by using single lines on your graver. And this, once again, these are pre-sharpened blades, so it saves you just a little bit of time and effort to and you won't need all the extra tools to sharpen your graver right off the bat. But eventually you will have to have a jeweler's bench stone and a few other things to keep your graver sharp. And we'll get into that later on. But right now we're just looking at part 2 of our first beginner's course, and this will work just fine for you. So if it was me, I would buy a pair of gravers with the 2 blades pre-sharpened, and that will just about do all the texture styles that you will need. And texturing your jewelry pieces is a must. You just have to take time to learn it, so you might as well learn it right off the bat. So let's move on now. So we're looking at gravers and what they do. So let's go back to our little feather. Doesn't look much like a feather right now because it doesn't have any design on it. And if you make 2 of these, you can turn them in and out so that you have a pair of earrings that are matched sets. Here is one that I've already made, as you can see. And there you go. It has a texture on it, and it pretty much looks like a real little feather. So that's what we're trying to push next. So we want to take our feather, and we're going to use I would use a little Dremel tool to start with. These are power electric tools that they're about $500 for a variable speed controlled, and other ones are the Fordham Flexes. They're about $150 to $200. So a Dremel tool is like $40, so, and it'll work for you. We're going to take this is a silver cutting wheel, and this is about I use 2 wheels basically. I use a rouge wheel, which is just a pink wheel, and it will polish. And I used this wheel here to just about do anything that I'm going to do in jewelry work with gold or silver. Takes all the scratches out, cleans all the edges up, and that wheel works beautiful for that. I've never found a wheel that worked any better than this silver one. So those are the only 2 wheels I really use most of. So we're just taking this and we're cleaning the glue off. And I tell you that we're going to go ahead and just now I'm going to take all the rough edges off the edge. Now we'll get the rest of the glue. I'm using a foot speed on this so I can control the speed. There's also a box that this connects to, and you can vary the speed there too. So get used to using your fingers. And copper and gold and silver get hot fast. So your fingers will develop a little bit of callus so you can take a lot more heat. Now I'm going to turn this around and get the rest of the glue off of it. Now in the process of cleaning this up, I've taken all the burrs off of the outside edge of the feather, so that it's a nice smooth feather. It won't catch on any cloth or anything, especially on if you're using these for earrings. So it's important to make sure that your jewelry is polished off, and before you do your finish work. So we're going to go back here in the back once more and pick up a little bit more here. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about needle files, we've talked a little bit about gravers, and now we're talking about polishing the feather to get it to a finish that we were ready to work with. So we're just about there. So I'm going to go ahead and change the wheel here. Now this particular shaft, flex shaft, is a motor driven. So I just snap a different blade in there without having to use a chuck key and spend a lot of time changing things over. Now this is kind of a polish wheel. You can see already how fast that polishes that. Nice wheels to have. They don't last very long, but well, I guess you can polish quite a few pieces with it. And your piece will heat up, so you just have to kind of let it cool down as you go, and so you can hold it. Alright. You can take as much time as you want to polish your little pieces. And there are a number of different types of wheels that you can use to polish them. This is just a quick way of kind of getting it to where you want it. So we'll call that good. It looks blotchy, but it really isn't too. And we're going to texture this feather anyway, so it doesn't have a real problem with not being perfectly shiny. Now, the next problem that we're going to have is how are we going to hold this so we can do some texturing work. And we're going to take an engraver, like I said, and we're going to put some designing on this little feather. We're going to put some veins in it, and we're going to make it look like more like a feather. And so you would try to use it by hand like this. That would be dangerous. These are razor sharp. If you slip, you will gouge it right into your finger. So you want to keep your finger away from this. There's a couple ways you can do this, and I'll give you the best way that I can tell you. One, this is an engraver's ball, or an engraver's ball or vise, I guess they might call this. And this would be one way to do that. And there's various different settings that you can buy for these, so you can hold your little projects in them. Now these start at around $150, $200, all the way up to $1,000. I've seen some that are over $1,200. So it's a bit much for what you're trying to do. And I just want you to make a profit with your jewelry right off the bat, so that you can buy the tools you need and have the fun that in the enjoyment that this business offers. And it's a work at home type of deal. That's a very enticing thing right now with this pandemic going on. So let's go ahead and say, well, I can't afford that. So the next thing is a shellac pin vise. This is a shellac pin vise. I'm going to bring the, oops, I always hit that wrong button. There we go. This is, carries a little handle. Has a melgrain or knurling texture on this, so it's a nice gripper. And you can put this in here just like that. And you can turn it, or you can angle it, and it works very neat. So this is another tool that you're going to need. Once again, you don't have to hunt for these. It's on my website, mybenchjeweler.com, and we will list all of the tools you'll need to start with. Okay, these little shellac bench pins are fantastic. They save you tons of money from buying engraver's ball, but this is a nice way to get around all the expensive costs. So the next thing we want to do to use this shellac is you have to heat the piece you want to put on there. So you don't need much. You just come back here on the back side, and that's plenty. And we're just gonna push that up to the center. Oops. There we go. And once that sets in about 3 or 4 seconds, you can see already that it's not going to go anywhere. So you have to let that cool down just for a couple minutes until that shellac hardens. And it comes off about as easy as it goes on there. So it allows us to use texturing tools such as gravers and finish the overall design of the earring that we're making today, which is a feather. Now let's go ahead and come back here. Let's take another look at this with the feather and the drawing we made upon a piece of paper, so we get a good idea how we want this to look. So we want to put some little circles in here, and I'm going to show you how that's done. We want to kind of make this a grainy texture. I'll show you how that's done. And we want to put kind of a little vein down the middle. So you'll notice that I've polished just the very edge here, and the rest of it I've just kind of left dull. If it was me doing 100 of these, I'd probably polish all of them. I'd drill the hole for the earring, and then I would use some piece of wire or something and polish all of these up before I did the texturing. But just for practical purposes of demonstrating, I only polish this little area right here because we're not going to texture that. So we'll get rid of that. Okay, this is the tools which I was showing you and demonstrating to you before. So we'll come in a little bit closer, and hopefully we can not get my head in the way while I show you how to do this. So first of all, we're going to put 2 cuts down this so we know where not to texture. So I'm going to use the angle part of this flat graver. I'm going to angle it like almost 90, and I'm going to make 2 cuts. There's one. There's two. Now I'm going to go back, take a little more. And you'll see kind of a nice little design there. Now I want to do some different little designs right here to give this a more feathery look. So we're going to start right about here. And we're going to do our texture. Now to do a wrinkle cut, you have to roll this graver all the way to one side, all the way to the other side. The less you roll it, like if I just do a little bit, it's going to be a finer texture. So to give this kind of a nice little texture, we're going to start right here and I'm going to roll it. And I'm going to come over on the other side, do it again. And now you see we have a little bit of a texture. Now let's see if I can shut the fluorescent light off. Maybe this will help a little bit so you can see the texture in there. See how I did the texturing? Okay. Now I want to go just a little bit more. And we're done with the texture. Now we're going to do something different. Gives it a little feathery look, doesn't it? So you need to learn to do the wrinkle cut and just bright cuts, and do them with gravers, not with texturing or rotary tools. The rotary tools are no good for this kind of stuff, and you want to learn how to use your gravers. Very important process in the jewelry business. So let's open this up just a little bit. Now the next thing I want to do, I want to drill a hole for the earring. So we're going to use a, that's a little too big. Now if you have a Dremel tool, you could just use a little drill bit and come in here. Now you can't just drill like this. Oops. You can't just drill a hole without putting some sort of a pilot hole. So I can use a graver. I'm using a V graver, and I want that earring hole to come right about in the middle, just like that. So I'm just making a little pit so that the drill bit doesn't slip off. Okay. Let's get that done next. So we're going to just drill right straight down through. I don't think you can see very well. I don't have much of a way to... Okay, we drilled a hole straight through. Sorry that the drill was in the way, but it doesn't take much when your piece is in the shellac. That's the time to drill it. So now we want to put a vein down the middle of this. Let's bring back the little drawing, and you notice that I put a little line down the middle, so this is kind of like a little vein down the middle, or a rib. So let's go ahead and put that in there. We'll go back, and there's two ways to do it. You could use a V-graver, or you can use your flat graver. Today we're going to use the flat graver, and once again we're going to go at an angle and just push it straight down, and we're going to do it gently. Let's see if we can come in a little closer, and we'll put one more in there. Okay. We're going to follow the same, roughly the same angle. You want to keep your fingers, that was not a good demonstration. You want to keep those fingers out of the top. That's why the handle, and that's why we got this. So we can control what we're doing. And if you slipped, it's a lot easier to fix the piece that you've slipped on than it is your finger. All we're doing is just chipping away a little bit of metal at a time. Okay, I hope you could see how I did that. It's hard to see whether I'm in the way a little bit, but it's really difficult if you can't see what you're doing. So, but we did get her pretty close. So, next thing, we're going to make a little line straight across. Another little line right here, and maybe one more. Alright, now we got to do another little bit pattern right in between here, and there we go. Now we're ready to take this out. We get all the design we're going to do with Regal. You know, I'm going to put just a little bit more in there. Alright. Now, to get these out of the shellac, you put your flat graver at the very top of that. Oops. You just come underneath of it, just like that. And I'm just using the flat of my graver to get a little bit of that shellac off of there. And I dropped it. So. I might have heated that just a little too much because we put a little more shellac on there than I really thought we was going to have. So it just takes a little tiny bit of heat on your metal so that it will stick in the shellac. So easy enough to fix. Put my drill bit back. We use one of these little silver wheels these little cutting wheels. And we'll come back and just clean up the back of this. Now the back of it's pretty well cleaned back up. Good enough for me. Now we've got our little design in the front, but we're not quite done. So the next thing we want to do is I carry these, make these little steel plates. And this is a big one. You don't need this big one. A little 3x3 or a little 4x4 or somewhere in that area. If you look on our website, you'll find these on the website. They're smaller ones. If you go to some of these major tool companies and buy they have a steel block and they're glued onto a wood block, which, you know, immaterial. If you want to do that, you can. They're $100. These are like $20. So now we got a tool here that we actually manufacture, and they have a little dimple in them, and these are hardened steel so that lasts quite a while. It works well on brass, copper, sterling silver, and gold. Doesn't work real well on hardened steel, you know, where you're doing engraving on a belt buckle or something like that, or it doesn't work well if these little dimples don't work well on steel, such as a knife or a gun. They will work, but you'll damage this eventually. So I recommend using them just on the softer metals, the non-ferrous metals. Now I'm going to show you how I do this. I'm just going to put this right up there, and we're going to make a little round circle. Now I'm going to go halfway into that circle with another circle. And again the same way, halfway into the circle. Then we're going to come over here, do it all over again. And those little half circles like that almost make it look like it's those are little quills of feathers coming down. So we'll take a little closer look at this now. Well, you can kind of see them. They're little half circles all the way around this. And last step is a little wood dapping block, and you just want to kind of texture or concave the your piece just a little dab so that it has a three-dimensional look to it. So you use a wooden dowel. I'm going to bring this back out. These are just neat little wood blocks, and they're very inexpensive. We carry them in stock, and you get two dapping blocks with them, and it makes your product puffy. Or you notice I'm just now I'm going to straighten that up. I'm just making it three-dimensional look. Now it's too much, so we'll just bend it out a little bit, just like that. And there you go. We have another feather made. And copper feathers sell, by the way. I've sold numbers of them, hundreds. Like I said, once again, we used to have a guy that would buy hundreds of feathers off of us, and he would take them to South Dakota and sell them up there to all the gift stores, and did that for a lot of years before he retired. So, but these will sell on your Facebook, these will sell on eBay, these will sell on Amazon, these will sell on Etsy. So these will help pay for your jewelry tools that you have to buy. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and hope you come back and watch the Bench Jeweler on its next project, which I think we're going to make it a little hard. So stay tuned again. So this is the Bench Jeweler, and thank you for coming into the Bench Jeweler's workshop. Have a nice day, and we'll see you the next time.